Alright, so next fight I want to talk about is the Deontay Wilder versus Robert Helenius fight. So as you saw, that fight barely lasted a round. Deontay Wilder came in at 214 pounds, looked very mobile throughout the fight, and honestly I think Deontay at 214 pounds is very dangerous. He does have some advantages at 240 pounds, like being a little bit stronger, being a little bit able to manipulate people better under the clinch and things like that. But obviously at 214 pounds, he's much more mobile, and he probably has more stamina is what I'm assuming. Like you saw that in the fights that he had against like Bermane Stiverne, where he fought all 12 rounds and things like that, where he was at a lower weight and he was able to carry that weight a lot better, be a lot less tired, and still be a lot more dangerous throughout the entire fight. And like what Tyson Fury said kind of after their first fight, he said that it wasn't just the power of Deontay Wilder's punch that was dangerous, it was more so the speed. And when Tyson Fury started coming at him that second fight, I guess he really felt that he needed that additional weight to be able to fight Tyson Fury off of him, which Tyson Fury came in there 270 pounds plus. So I can understand the rationale behind it, and honestly I think that it was in that third fight he put up a valiant effort using the skills that he had, and honestly he was light in that first fight, and I think he kind of assumed that Tyson Fury would kind of fight similar to that. Then he got up to 240, then he was all like, okay, if this side's gonna fight me, I need to work on my grappling inside the clinch, I need to work on my arm manipulation, need to work on those angles on the inside, and I need to work on switching it up more to be able to land this big shot on Tyson Fury. But to me, a 214 pound Wilder is pretty dangerous because he's mobile and he's very explosive. And just like with that Robert Helenius knockout, when he's explosive and he's fast like that and he's moving around, it makes it harder for you to predict when that right hand is coming. He just boom gets you with it, and you're just like, oh shit, then it's too late, then you're out of there. Now some people are saying that it's fake, but I mean, out of all the fighters who have ever fought in boxing, I think it's kind of weird that people think that this one is fake. Wilder has been knocking people out with one-punch knockouts his entire career. He said people with shots that have put out men who, if anyone else had hit him with those shots, they would have been at least able to recover a little bit, maybe walk through, and he's put their lights out completely like that. He even had Tyson Fury on the floor a couple of times, barely missing a 10 count. So I don't think that it's unreasonable to think that he was able to knock out Robert Helenius with one punch even while fading backwards. But with that controversy aside, or that whatever you want to think about that aside, let's look on to the fights that he has next. So the fight that he's most likely going to get next is the Andy Ruiz fight. Now, if I'm being honest with you, I've never really been too high on Andy Ruiz. I think Andy Ruiz is kind of like George Kambosos, in that he has very, very good hand speed, you know, similar to George Kambosos. But you know, there's not too many attributes that he has that I think are like at an elite level other than his hand speed, and he has relatively good punch resistance. But other than his hand speed and punch resistance, I don't really see him as an elite fighter. He doesn't have the boxing fundamentals and the exceptional reach or the power of someone like Anthony Joshua, even though he was able to catch him. He doesn't have the footwork or the upper body movement or the boxing IQ of someone like Oleksandr Usyk. He doesn't have the height and the mobility and the boxing IQ of a Tyson Fury. He doesn't have the power of or the height of a Wilder. It's just like he seems sometimes to be like, I don't know, he just seems to be like a very flat-footed fighter. Now, like I said, for his size, he is pretty mobile, but he would be much more mobile if he was able to lose weight. But whether it's due to just his natural body chemistry, or whether it's due to his lack of motivation, or whether it's due to his eating habits, I don't know. He's just unable to lose the weight. Every fight he has, he puts on a black shirt, he looks relatively slim, and he looks like he's about to come in there and be this mobile, completely different, changed fighter. And he gets in there and he's basically the same fighter, doing the same thing as he always does. And he does the same thing as he always does. He made slight adjustments during the fight that he had with Luis Ortiz, but not so much so where I think he's a completely different fighter, and he basically gets the same results. I don't really see him as being on the level as a Tyson Fury, Deontay Wilder, Oleksandr Usyk, or even an Anthony Joshua, even though he was able to beat him. I think that Anthony Joshua just got too keen on knocking him out and came in there kind of how like Teofimo Lopez did against George Kambosos and got caught with some very, very fast combinations and was just out of there. Very similar to George Kambosos versus Teofimo Lopez, but I don't know if he can have that same effect on Wilder. Like, you can say that he does have better hand speed than Wilder, at least in terms of like throwing punches and bunches. You can say that, oh, he's a better boxer than Wilder, maybe he's more defensively responsible, but I don't think that's enough to beat Wilder. I think Tyson Fury is so much better than Andy Ruiz, and Tyson Fury even had trouble with Wilder, and I do not think that, even though some people say Tyson Fury's chinny, I'm not under that belief. I think that he has much more punch resistance than Andy Ruiz, and I think that if Deontay Wilder is able to be mobile and to fade backwards, kind of how he did in the Robert Helenius fight, kind of how he was doing in the Luis Ortiz fight, and really start sticking out his jab and making Andy Ruiz hesitant, he will be able to catch Andy Ruiz with a big shot. And I don't think that Andy Ruiz has the punch resistance, because we've seen him go down to much less bigger punchers. I just don't think he has the punch resistance to survive Wilder's right hand. Now, I honestly thought that Luis Ortiz was going to beat him. Yes, I really did. Just because Luis Ortiz, he's just a better boxer than Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is faster than Luis Ortiz, and he's much younger. But if Luis Ortiz was a little bit younger, I think that because he was outboxing Andy Ruiz in a lot of the rounds in that fight. But he got Andy Ruiz essentially got 3 knockdowns on him, and he got those 3 knockdowns on him because, you know, Luis Ortiz is like 43 years old. The man is 43 years old. And as you saw with the fight that he had with Charles Martin, he was going down with like a stiff jab. So, and he had 2 hard fights with Deontay Wilder where he was completely knocked out. So with that being said, I just don't think that, I think that the big difference in that fight that Andy Ruiz had with Luis Ortiz was the punch resistance. Luis Ortiz has no punch resistance anymore. If he gets hit by damn near any heavyweight, whether it be Charles Martin, Andy Ruiz, if he gets in there with, you know, Sanchez or Tyson Fury, or just any heavyweight with a decent amount of pop, just due to the fact that he's a 43-year-old man, he can barely get off the stool most of the time because his knees buckle after every punch. He does not have the punch resistance to compete with pretty much the upper echelon of the heavyweight division anymore, and it's just sad that is, but it just is what it is. Like, all these people are crapping on Luis Ortiz, acting like he was never a good fighter. He's always been a good fighter, you know. He has some flaws in his game, but he was always a very exceptional fighter. He just got to the age where he just lost his punch resistance. You see that a lot with fighters. Even Roy Jones Jr. at a certain age, once he got up there, that punch resistance starts to leave. You saw the same thing happen with people like Kell Brook after he, you know, started getting up in age, and after he got hurt by Gennady Golovkin, his punch resistance went way down as well. But like I said, I don't really see Andy Ruiz beating Deontay Wilder. The only chance that I really think Andy Ruiz has is if Wilder has also lost his punch resistance. Now, when he got knocked out by Tyson Fury, those 2 fights, he seemed like he was taking a lot of punches. They weren't just one punch knockouts. This man was getting hit and getting up and coming and getting up and coming and fighting and getting up and still fighting and getting hit and getting hit and getting hit. They were very much wars. And like I said, when you have wars like that, like, you can look at Sergey Derevyanchenko. He had some brutal wars with Gennady Golovkin. He had some brutal wars with Charlo, and he hasn't been the same since. Like, his punch resistance has clearly gone down after that, and he had a brutal war even before that in the fight that he had before Triple G. I forgot who he was fighting, but he's had some pretty brutal wars, and you know, that takes a lot out of a fighter. And you see some fighters that when they start getting hit like that, even if they don't get knocked out, like with Sergey Derevyanchenko and fighting Gennady Golovkin and fighting Charlo, that even though he didn't get knocked out in those fights, he's still not the same fighter, you know. And then that's not the same fighter anymore. he doesn't have the punch resistance that he used to have. He has the fight that he used to have, but you know, your body can only take so much. So if Wilder isn't the same, you know, after those wars that he had with Tyson Fury, then Andy Ruiz has a good shot of beating him. Because I think Andy Ruiz, he's had some wars, but when in the Luis Ortiz fight, he very much proved that he still does have good punch resistance. Luis Ortiz was hitting him with some bombs, and to Andy Ruiz's credit, he just kept coming. And Luis Ortiz can crack, even though he's, you know, some of that crack has been taken down a little bit just due to his age. You know, the last thing to go is the power, so he can still hit pretty hard. But yeah, I would like to see him fight Luis Ortiz, and if he's able, or I would like to see Wilder fight Andy Ruiz, and if he's able to beat Andy Ruiz, the guy who I want to see Wilder fight most, besides, you know, Oleksandr Usyk or Anthony Joshua, because that's would be Joe Joyce. Because honestly, I'm very interested in seeing that Oleksandr Usyk fight against Deontay Wilder, because I think that would be a very exciting fight, because Usyk would have to just go at Deontay Wilder just like he went at Anthony Joshua, and that would definitely put you on the edge of your seat. I would love to see him fight Anthony Joshua, because Anthony Joshua has a big punch, and he's arguably a better he is a better technical boxer than Wilder. At least, I don't know, maybe Wilder has had some major improvements. I couldn't tell from that last fight just because it was so quick, but let's just say that he is a much better technical boxer than Wilder. So, but Wilder has the advantage in power, and he has the advantage of explosiveness. But AJ's no slouch when it comes to footwork. AJ's no slouch when it comes to having a good jab. AJ's no slouch when it comes to power itself. So that would be a great fight to see. But the fight that I want to see most, even though that it's not the fight that everybody wants to see Wilder in, is I want to see Wilder in there with Joe Joyce, because I think Joe Joyce, it's just so interesting, because Joe Joyce is a tank. You know, I have questions on if Oleksandr Usyk can take Wilder's right hand, especially if Wilder's going to be explosive and fast. I have questions if Anthony Joshua will be able to take Wilder's right hand. I have questions if, you know, Andy Ruiz will be able to take Wilder's right hand, because you can outbox Wilder from the beginning of the fight to the end of the fight, and he's still dangerous. And Tyson Fury is a great boxer, and he was even able to catch Tyson Fury and put him down 4 times between all of those fights. So I think, you know, Tyson Fury is arguably the best heavyweight in the world. So if he's able to put down Tyson Fury, then he might be able to put down Anthony Joshua. Then he might be able to put down Oleksandr Usyk. Then he might be able to put down Andy Ruiz. But the one guy who I think that he's gonna have he'll have the most trouble putting down if that right hand lands is Joe Joyce. I don't know. I've just seen this man fight. I've just seen this man take big punches. He just comes in like extremely big, kind of like Tyson Fury did. And I just think that Joe Joyce might have the punch resistance to maybe eat Deontay Wilder's right hand. And that is something I've never seen before. Like I said, Wilder is my favorite fighter in the heavyweight division, because he is by far, to me, the most exciting fighter in the heavyweight division. But God, I would love to see if because he's going to catch Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is not the fastest boxer. Joe Joyce is not the most slickest boxer. He's not the most defensively responsible boxer. So he's going to catch Joe Joyce. But I just want to see if Joe Joyce can take the punch. I would pay money for that one. I'd pay, because if Joe Joyce can take the punch, and he just keeps coming at Deontay Wilder how he was coming at Joseph Parker, and Deontay Wilder's force is just going boom, 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 we might see another great fight like we saw against him and Tyson Fury. Another one, back and forth with an ebb and flow. We might be in for that. So yeah, I really, really want to see him in there with Joe Joyce. Actually, I want to see Joe Joyce against everybody. I don't think he really has much of a chance against Tyson Fury, just because styles make fights, and idea that Tyson Fury can just be mobile and be long, and even though Joe Joyce is very tall, he could probably just outpoint Joe Joyce, just similar to how he outpointed Robert Klitschko, even though, you know, they fight very differently, Joe Joyce does. But I just think that Joe Joyce is a little bit too slow to be able to pin Tyson Fury down. And if Tyson Fury can avoid those punches and can avoid getting knocked out by Joe Joyce, I could see him winning that fight pretty easily. But like I said, Wilder, on the other hand, he might be able to take Wilder's punches. It might be a really competitive fight. Cause honestly, people keep talking about how he'll never catch Oleksandr Usyk. Oleksandr Usyk took some bombs from Anthony Joshua, and like I said, even who I think is arguably the best heavyweight in the world, Tyson Fury, Wilder was able to catch him. So I mean, he'll probably be able to catch Usyk. And if Usyk doesn't have the punch resistance to take what's arguably the greatest right hand in boxing history, then he's just going to be flat on his face. And then you'll see like this great fighter in Oleksandr Usyk completely knocked out, or you'll see like this, you know, B+ to A fighter and Andy Ruiz get completely knocked out. You know, it just really depends. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping that he does stick around in boxing. I'm hoping that he does eventually fight Joe Joyce, that he does eventually fight Oleksandr Usyk, that he does eventually fight Andy Ruiz. Win or lose, those will be great fights to see. And I'm also hoping that Tyson Fury gets in there with Oleksandr Usyk as well, just so that we can have an undisputed champion and we can see that. But either way, you know, I'm going to be definitely entertained watching any of those fights. I would definitely love to see them. And that's all I really have to say about that. I'm out.